Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and I wanted to put up a video today talking a little bit about Outlast 2. Now, I'm sorry I haven't had a little bit more time to do a more traditional scripted review, but if you just want to get to the point and the straight write-up, then you can find a full review on pushsquare.com. But in terms of this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my impressions of the game, because I did finish it last night, and I rather enjoyed it, though I do have a few issues with the gameplay elements. Now, the original Outlast came as a kind of a surprise to me. I hadn't played a good survival horror game in a long while, and it was free on PlayStation Plus, so I just decided to give it a go, and I fell in love with the mechanic of the camera and the night vision stuff. Now, if you don't know, Outlast, its kind of defining feature is that it's really hard to see in the game. Like, most environments are generally quite like pitch black, and the gameplay sort of works where you've got a camera and you can kind of set night vision, which obviously allows you to see, and this means that your vision kind of becomes a commodity because there are only so many batteries in the game, and if you run out of batteries, then your vision is severely impeded. And Outlast 2 works in the same way. You do have an upgraded camera in Outlast 2. It's got a few new features. One of the things is that it's got a microphone, so you can kind of locate the position of enemies and stuff like that through sound, but the game does remind you quite often that this microphone feature is actually in the game, which speaks a lot to its kind of usefulness, I think. And I think one of the problems that I have with Outlast 2 is it still does the hide and seek gameplay. A lot of it feels quite trial and error in this game. I found myself you'd get to a section where you're being stalked, or you've got to sneak past a group of enemies or whatever, and it feels like the game has a specific route that it wants you to take every single time, and what you end up doing is you kind of piece it together. So you try turning left, you try turning right, you try going through a certain building or whatever, and then you'll die. And then you'll reload, and the checkpoint is really good. The loading times are fast, so it's not frustrating, but what happens is you kind of feel yourself piecing together the exact route that the game wants you to take in order to escape and get you to the next checkpoint, and that kills a lot of the tension for me. I never felt unsafe in this game, really, even though the vibe of it is very unsettling. I always felt like I was just fumbling through it to get to the end. Now, to be fair, I did review it on just normal difficulty. There are harder difficulties, and I'm sure that ramps up the challenge, and you've got much less resources, and the AI is much smarter and stuff like that. But those were my impressions playing on normal. I think coming off Resident Evil 7, which obviously incorporated different elements of Outlast, you still had that kind of run hide gameplay to it, but I felt like in Resident Evil 7, for starters, the Baker estate is kind of a character in itself, and this game is much more linear. It's kind of funneling you through different environments. Those environments are cool, but you never grow like this sense of familiarity with the environment, and that doesn't work as well for me, because it feels like you're just kind of going on a roller coaster through. It's like a ghost train, Outlast 2 is, in some ways, and while it does take you to some cool places, like I say, it doesn't have that kind of character that the Baker estate had in Resident Evil 7, and of course Resident Evil 7 had a lot more meat on its bones too. There's no combat in Outlast 2, which is fine. Like, I don't mind there not being combat, but it means that the format of running and hiding and it starts to wane a little bit, especially now we're into the second game. The first one obviously had DLC as well, so there's been quite a lot of Outlast, and there's been quite a lot of similar games to this as well, and I think that the format is tiring. But what I do like a lot about Outlast 2 is the setting. You play as a video journalist who's kind of investigating the disappearance of a woman with his wife in the Arizona desert, I think. And basically, without spoiling anything, your helicopter crashes and you're kind of stranded in this settlement which is occupied by these creepy religious cultists. And if the first Outlast was about mental health and the challenges that society at large faces in understanding it and treating it, then this game is very much about religion, specifically like Christianity and stuff like that. There are these sort of cult factions that occupy this settlement, this mysterious settlement, and they're kind of reinterpreting elements of the Bible and creating their own gospels and stuff like that. And it gets very dark. Like, this game is really dark. I wouldn't be surprised if it got banned in a few countries. It maybe already has. I can't imagine this is going to release in Australia or Germany, for example. Maybe it is. I've probably got the wrong information there, but there's some really dark stuff in this game. Like, we're talking like mutilation of children, babies being killed, stuff like that, like en masse. And it doesn't shy away from that. And as you progress through the game, some of the themes get darker still. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into it for fear of spoiling it, and I think some people may say that the game goes too far. So in the original Outlast, there was one of its defining scenes was where your finger gets chopped off, and a lot of people talk about that scene a lot. It's one of the most memorable moments from the original game, and you can tell the developer is trying to one-up that in this game. So there are a lot of set pieces that really try to shock you, and not all of them are as successful as other ones for me. I think some of them are a bit predictable and a little bit forced, and you can just tell they're trying to shock you. And when you can see that someone's trying to shock you, things become less shocking, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that the vibe of the game is any less unsettling, because it is a really scary, well, I wouldn't say it's scary, but it's a tense location that you have to explore and get through. And the story kind of flips between these flashbacks, which kind of fill in the backstory of the protagonist, and what's happening in kind of this cultist village, and there's lots of like metaphor and stuff going on. There's lots of symbolism and stuff like that. What I found is that while I enjoy the story, and I did like the story quite a lot, but I found like some elements of exposition were delivered a little bit too frantically, a little bit too fast. And some of the antagonists, who are really good, by the way, this game has a much bigger budget and they're able to kind of flesh out the bad guys and do a lot more with them. But the problem is that they don't really give them enough time to... they don't give enough screen time for these bad guys for them to really marinate and for you to understand their motives and for you to even follow at times what's going on. And I get that it's meant to be ambiguous, like that's the whole point of the game. It's trying to tell you a story that's up for interpretation in a lot of ways. But some of the elements, they come at you too thick and too fast, and it's like you will find yourself a little bit lost at times. But that's fine. The game looks incredible. Like, I cannot stress how good this game looks, and one of the sad things about that really is that you'll see most of these gorgeous environments. Well, I say they're gorgeous, they're absolutely disgusting, but you know what I mean, they're really well presented. But you'll be looking at most of them through a grainy night vision mode, which is obviously one of the core elements of the game, and that's fine, but it's kind of a shame that these absolutely beautiful locales are presented in a way that you can't really see. You can't really see them at their best, but the lighting's really good. There are some amazing set pieces, and some of the environments are incredible. There's a church that you go to. Oh, that's not a spoiler, but there's a church that you go to, and it's so detailed and so well done, and it looks incredible. Lighting is amazing. One of the things that they've added to this game is there are now like things that you can record. So there are certain like elements in the environment. I'm trying to tiptoe around without spoiling things, but there are certain things that you can point your camera at and you'll record them. And basically what this does is it allows you to build up kind of a video journal of your playthrough, and all of these are kind of custom recordings of what you see, if that makes sense. So if you zoom in on something, that's recorded in your kind of file, your save file. So this is a nice way of kind of creating like a connection to the protagonist's career. It feels like you really are a video journalist. But one thing I will say is some of the writing in notes and stuff, so you happen upon notes and like discarded gospels and stuff like that, and that's where a lot of the fiction and the lore is developed. Some of the writing in that is really good. It's difficult reading. Some of the subjects and the topics discussed in those notes is really dark, really macabre, really unsettling in a lot of ways, but it's really well delivered. But the game sometimes can't quite make up its mind. I didn't always believe that the protagonist was seeing the same things as I was, because there's some hammy voice acting, some hammy writing in there as well, which doesn't connect with the darker themes of the game, and it can't quite seem to make up its mind whether it wants to be this really psychological, really shocking, really grotesque piece of fiction, or whether it wants to be a bit camp. And I didn't enjoy that aspect, that those kind of conflicting approaches, they didn't make sense to me. I think it should have gone, in my opinion, it should have gone all the way down the dark route and just cut out the corniness, because I think the game, some of the stuff that it delves into is just so dark that I don't think the kind of hammy, cheesy one-liners make any sense at all in this game world. But yeah, I think if you like horror games, you absolutely have to play this. If you like walking simulator type games, you absolutely have to play this, because while it's not a walking simulator, there's a lot more gameplay here. I'm underselling it by saying that, but I think one of the things about walking simulators is they have a great sense of place. It's all about feeling like you're part of a world, right? And Outlast 2 does a great job with that. I think it's really cool walking through these environments and seeing all the disturbing stuff that's going on around you. I personally didn't find it that scary, and that's not me trying to be like a tough guy, macho man, this didn't scare me. I just wasn't that scared by anything in this game. It didn't have an impact on me, but it did have an impact in me in terms of unsettling me and making me come face to face with some really quite dark stuff. But I can't go into detail, obviously, because it's a spoiler, but you'll know what I mean if you do decide to play it, which I think you should play it. If you're tired of these kind of run away games, these kind of hide and seek games, it's maybe not going to be what you want. I personally think that this kind of gameplay format is getting a bit tired now. I just wanted more out of the game. I got a bit like I was saying earlier, like you just feel like you've got to figure out what the game wants you to do, and once you've done that, you're on to the next checkpoint and you do it all again, and that got a bit boring for me. And it's not a long game, but it's a longer game than the previous one, and it just doesn't have enough ideas to carry that for me in the gameplay department. But in terms of the story and stuff like that, I found the mystery compelling enough to see me right the way through, and definitely there's a pretty strong conclusion here. The last sort of half an hour or so is quite good stuff. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below, are you up for another Outlast? Are you concerned by some of the complaints I've had in this video review, or do you think it sounds right up your alley? Do check out the written review on pushsquare.com if you want a more thoughtful thoughtful synopsis of the game, because this has been a little bit like a brain fart, hasn't it? I'm just kind of verbally spouting out everything that comes to my head about this game. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the little bits of gameplay that I've put in the video, and like I say, let me know in the comment section below whether you're going to pick it up, and do come back after you've finished it and let me know whether you agree or disagree with some of the things I've said. And thank you so much for watching.